Okay. Hi. So this is going to be my presentation to about my research for Tartuffe by Molière. I would normally be more prepared by having this scripted because I would usually read it along and do my presentation, but I just couldn't get it together to get that done. So I'm just going to kind of like improvise here and wing it, and hopefully I'll do a good job. This is going to be kind of long because there was a lot of research in this, and I'm going to try to make it as short as I can. I've got a lot to cover, so feel free to set the speed up, to high speed if you want to get through this faster. So anyway, when I was doing research for Tartuffe, and Tartuffe took place in, late 1660s, I thought I know Molière, right? I learned about Molière in high school and in college previously, and I should be able to do this. This should be a cinch, right? But I was wrong, very wrong, because I went in thinking of, Molière as like being part of the time of the French Revolution, of like Marie Antoinette, where they had, the enormous bodices, structured bodices with, big, tall wigs, giant powdered wigs and everything. And that was about 100 years off, because that was more in 18th century, which would be like in the 1700s. Those of you who, I don't know if you're younger or not, but 18th century, 1700s, 17th century, 1600s. So, in 1660, which was the 17th century, um, the style of what they called macaroni, which incidentally, I believe is what they refer to in Yankee Doodle when they say stuck a feather in his hat and called it macaroni. That's just because macaroni was a macaronic style, was a style in actually England, not France. Well, it was throughout Europe, but it was predominantly in England. And it was a style of like exaggeration, exuberance, lots of kind of like randomly stuck together things, eclectic, and it was just getting started here in the time of this play. And so while they didn't have the high, giant powdered wigs and the, extremely wide, large bodices, structured bodices, they did have padded bodices. So there was a bit of a volume there, but it wasn't as big as it was as the other time. Also, the hair was not like that. Wigs were coming into style at that time, but they were very nouveau and they were not that towering thing. If you did wear a wig, it was usually very modest, but most women just wore their hair in ringlets, or in updo styles, but usually it was just very coiffed, and hats, that sort of thing, and lots of hats. And men, same thing, kind of like that parted down the middle with not really ringlets. Sometimes, although sometimes they did have ringlets, but it was also kind of like this curly thing, where they would do their best to try and curl their hair. Even if they had straight hair, they would try to like roll it to make it have it be that way. And so, yeah, this was not the time of Marie Antoinette. This was not the French Revolution. This was what is referred to commonly as the Baroque period. So keep in mind the Americas were just getting colonized at the time. I believe this was the time of Mozart. I'm not sure. Have to look that up. That's one of the reasons why I hate doing these things improvised. But so yeah, that was that. And so let me share screen here, and I'm going to just a second here. Share screen. There we go. Share. And I want to share this screen here, right? Yes. This one here? No, this one here. There we go. Okay. So, here we are. This is my research material. And as you can see, during the 1600s, this style for men was coming out. There's the demonstration of the hair that I was talking about. These giant, what was called a cour, and I believe that that means like form fitted to the body. I'm not sure, but just because it's French, French is a romantic language. I happen to know a little bit of Latin, and so juste au corps, for me, thinks fits to the body, which makes sense because these coats are kind of like, trim. They're not baggy or bulky. There's no draping. They're just kind of like form-fitting, juste au corps. Women, on the other hand, wore these really intense boned bodices, long waistlines dipping down, low, off the shoulder neckline, whale boning, corset in the middle, structured, gave a very structured silhouette, that enforced posture. It was very difficult to go to the bathroom or even to sit down for long periods of time, while wearing something like this. The political and cultural context of the time. So, the political norms of this period was governed by order and legibility and reputation, with religion and social performances tightly intertwined. And there was a thing called sumptuary thinking, which was a series of edicts that were issued restricting the use of certain fabrics and types of fabrics like lace and ribbons, gold, satin, silk, and silver, kind of really luscious fabrics and materials that were restricted to only the upper class were allowed to wear those sorts of things. Orgon and his family at this time would have been part of the upper class, and so they would have been dressed, with the filigree and everything, the nice fabrics and everything. And so there's that. History and anachronism, I kind of covered that already. Um, Fabrics and textiles, so color strategy. 17th century textiles were technically very sophisticated. Lots of brocaded silks with metal wrapped threads. Imagine that, metal wrapped threads. That's pretty intense. Richly dyed blacks. Black dye was difficult to achieve during this period, and so it was often those who were wearing a rich black garment were seen to be expressing status. Same with gold and silver, obviously. Tartuffe would have worn black, so would have Madame Pernelle. She would have worn black, and probably Orgon would have worn not all black, but dark colors, definitely. This is a sample of brocaded silk fragment that had that metal wrapped thread in it that I was talking about. You can see how reflective it is and shiny. It's just gorgeous. Probably very hard to work with, though, especially if it had metal threads. Can't imagine. So another thing to keep in mind is that people's fabrics and outfits had lots of layers. And so, like you couldn't, when you're walking through a room dressed in this clothing, you're covered with draping fabrics, especially, like from the flowing draping fabrics from your arms and all around you, just heavy fabrics. And because the fabric was draping, especially from the arms, a lot of times with the man with the juste corps, you couldn't put your arms down, because if you put your arms down, the fabric would drag along the ground, and that would be terrible. And so a lot of people, believe it or not, used to walk around like this all the time. You'll see, I mean, there were people that would just kind of like, the gestures were like this. And I used to see that in paintings and think that, oh, it's just a dramatic painting. But no, people actually used to like walk around like this to keep the fabric from dragging on the ground. Plus, yeah, and also circles. That was another thing too. Like people didn't really walk in straight lines, especially in stage plays at the time. Everything was in a circle, kind of like an S curve, which I thought was very interesting. So yeah, back to sharing. Okay, share. So stays and padded rolls. So here's a sample of that corset. Look at that plunging silhouette there. And this is sort of a close-up of the boning for the corset on the inside. So imagine constructing this. I mean, it would just take forever to do this. I'm really glad that I don't actually have to create these costumes, just designing them. Um, as far as the play's emotional arc goes, Tartuffe moves from blind devotion in Act One through romantic conflict in Act Two, exposure and reversal in Acts Three through Four, to resolution in Act Five. Costumes can support this trajectory. Orgon, I keep saying Orgon and Tartuffe visually align early. Dark, restrained garments unify them, while Dami and Valère burst with ribbons and color. As Elmar orchestrates Tartuffe's downfall, her composed costume remains constant, highlighting her strategic calm. By Act Four, Tartuffe's dark robe should begin to feel ominous rather than pious. I I'm not sure exactly how would be achieved. Maybe by adding a prop or like a staff. I could see him walking around with a scepter. But his late acceptance can be mirrored by loosening his silhouette, or adding black into his palette, although he's already got a lot of black mostly. Representing regained clarity, the officer's crisp appearance in Act 5 restores order, and suggests royal authority. So these are just some notes about the costume or the characters that I thought. I don't think I'll read them all. You can kind of like freeze frame if you want to read these. I'm trying to get out of here and let you get out of here. This is a kind of like color chart that I made. I constructed this because I wanted to demonstrate it. So this was not part of my research. Just to be clear, I made this with AI. But I wanted to have a sense of the color palettes for the characters based on what I learned about things like the sumptry rules and the different colors and fabrics that were worn by the people in different statuses and different situations. So here you have like Orgon and Tartuffe. In these Orgon is obviously in black and red and blue, very noble colors, ox blood, I believe this color is called. Tartuffe, he's trying to be very modest, so he's just going to be in earth colors, muddy brown, olive, and dust, and then of course some washed black, a little bit of status there. Washed though, not the fine black dye that the rich people can have. Elmar is going to be also kind of more earth tones, but a little bit more floral, kind of wild flower looking. She's got some pale gold and some deep emerald over here because, she is the lady of the house and she would have these kinds of royal colors. Valère, well, he's got the blue and the red, similar to Orgon. So his colors are going to be real similar to Orgon, with the exception of maybe the blue and the purple, or the plum. I guess they call this color slate. I don't know. I didn't name these colors. I just pulled them. Marianne is younger, much more flowery. She's got the lavender, blush, powder blue, and cream color, so just real light and airy. And Valère is valiant. So he is bold colors, exuberant. He's got the polished black to demonstrate his wealth and his status, and the gold colors and, tans and teal colors to contrast. He's just very bold and strong. Cléante is sort of like the voice of reason. He's somewhat conservative, and humble. And, he's kind of like more what I think maybe Tartuffe pretends to be, is more like Cléante, but not as religious. And of course, then there's Madame Pernelle, and she's going to be similar to Orgon in colors, except she's got more of that kind of like antique gold because she's older. And so she's going to be represented by that. These are some of the sources that I pulled from. So a lot of the Victoria and Albert Museum women's bodices to demonstrate that. Metropolitan Museum of Art, Los Angeles County Museum of Art, websites are great. The Metropolitan Museum of Art, always a really great resource. The Fashion History Timeline, which I think a lot of us used for Virginia Woolf, really useful source. What else? Oh yeah, I cited that twice. Oh, that's a mistake. I'll have to fix that. And then comparative drama article on Molière's censorship battles and political research. These are just a few of the additional images that I pulled, not necessarily in any particular order. I'm not going to linger on them because you can scroll through and freeze if you want to look at them longer. But I just do want to comment on this though. I mean, what was he thinking? Look at this guy. Can you imagine how much this weighs? Look at all those ribbons. This is like overcompensating in Molière's time. Crazy. The ribbons on the shoes. That was very common back then. Ribbons, ribbons, ribbons. I loved ribbons. Uh, Embroidery. Look at that hand embroidery. Very lovely. So yeah, oh, this one is I was thinking of kind of like, I don't know, those shoes, undergarments. That's a servant girl. More kind of like either Ardon or Tartuffe, maybe. More be kind of like Elmire, maybe that one. Elmire, I'm not sure I say that one. And this outfit is ugly, but it kept popping up in my research. I kept seeing this image, so I felt obligated to put it in there. But look at that hat. Who would wear that? God, look at that lace. Lace collars and lace cuffs. So ornamental and elegant, all done by hand. Such beautiful. This is the person I was thinking. This person kind of made me think of like Marianne in a way. And these gloves, look at the detail on these cuffs, how ornamental that is. It's just the stitching and the lace. So rich and decadent. Yeah, this picture here also kept popping up in my research. I don't know why. I don't really, I don't know. I don't think I would use this in anything, but dinner. Again, this hat. What's these strange feather hats? Feathers. Put feathers in everything. Dun, 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 dun. Very rich lady. Look at that. She's wearing a shiny, satiny silver fabric. Totally screaming, I am rich. Don't mess with me. This is an artist. Okay, and yeah, so I think that's it. I'm done. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing all of your designs and your research and have fun.